It is my honor to introduce my friend, the poet, Melinda Burns. Melinda and I met at a backyard party in Santa Barbara in the early 80s when she lived here with her young family. And a few years later, they moved back to Canada, where Melinda is originally from. She is a status member of the Lower Mohawk First Nation. She is the daughter of a Mohawk mother and an English father. Melinda's short stories, essays, and poems have appeared in the New Quarterly, Grain, The Fiddlehead, Canadian Notes and Queries, Native Skin, and One Art. Her essay, Legacy, was a finalist in the 2023 Prism International Creative Nonfiction Contest. Melinda lives in Guelph, Ontario. She will read from her new collection, Homecoming, published by BookLand Press in 2025. These poems, arranged according to the medicine wheel, gracefully span Melinda's childhood, marriage, divorce, parenthood, and parents' aging, as well as her journey to reclaim and celebrate her native heritage. Melinda writes to try to understand this life without destroying the mystery, to excavate, untangle, set free. Please welcome Melinda Burns.
Thank you so much, Enid, and thank you to everyone who came today to this cross-country connection that we're doing through the wonders of technology. So I'm coming to you today from very snowy Ontario, Canada, beaming into very sunny California and other places. My book is called Homecoming. This is what it looks like. There, yeah. And it's called Homecoming because it's about coming home to yourself, the journey that we all take in this life, that we take by claiming our lives and what has occurred in them. And then personally, for me, it's also about reclaiming my heritage, as Enid mentioned. The medicine wheel was not at all familiar to me as a symbol of American, Native American spirituality growing up. It's a symbol of wholeness and balance. Because my mother, though she is Mohawk, or she was Mohawk, and born on Six Nations Reserve here in Ontario, she was taught early on through residential school to see her people as inferior, her people's ways as inferior, and to distance herself from them. And because of that, she didn't pass on any of the culture, the heritage, the stories, the traditions, the symbols. When I came to find out more about my heritage as I became an adult, the medicine wheel really spoke to me as, again, a symbol of wholeness and balance and a way of looking at our lives on Earth. So it seemed when I had these poems to gather into a collection, it just seemed appropriate to order them according to the 4 directions and the center of the medicine wheel. So I would like to read a couple of poems from each of the directions. I'll tell you what the directions stand for, and one from the center today. So I'll start with the East, which is the place of beginnings. Gesture. It would be night, traveling somewhere by car, my father driving, my mother in her black Hudson seal coat that I would lean into if I were in the front between them. They think I'm asleep on the back seat. My mother draws a cigarette from his pack of sweet caps puts it in her lips, though she doesn't smoke, lights it from the glowing end of the push-in dashboard lighter, then leans toward him, I see her, to place it between his lips, a gesture of such intimacy that I don't make a sound, but settle down in my seat and fall asleep. Kitchen story. My mother says she has something to tell me, turns to me from the stove where potatoes boil and bump in the pot. I stand still to hear, a bundle of forks in my hand for the table. You are half Indian, she says, and a thrill runs through me, like finding out I'm part dragonfly. But when you go to school, if anyone asks, say you're of English descent, like my father, not her. I nod, another thing to know, like keep your dress down so your underpants don't show. Don't talk about vomit at the supper table. Don't say you're Indian. I place the forks carefully, one on the left side of each plate, as I've been taught. And moving to the South is the place of innocence and joy. Heart in the sky. This begins with a Cherokee proverb. A nation is not conquered until the hearts of its women are on the ground. I come to my daughter's classroom to speak of being native, pass around the smudge pot from my mother's reserve, the sage and sweetgrass I burn to carry prayers to heaven. In school, we painted murals of teepees and dark-skinned people on long brown butcher paper, made long houses from popsicle sticks. I never said I was Indian. I hold up the drum I made, the dancing turtle I painted on its deerskin face. My daughter's classmates file past, wide-eyed. Beat the drum with the beater, trace the turtle with wandering fingers. Cool, they say. And then because I lived in Santa Barbara for 15 years, and that's where I met Enid, a lot of the poems in this book are about California. This one's called Heat. The moment I go back to the organic farm, the rows of plants, a hillside in the California sun. Had we broken up by then, one of the times? A chance reunion, a kiss, then falling to the dirt, kissing more. Moving to your room in the loft to make love, but that isn't what I remember. Not the taking off of clothes, not the bed, the light through the window, not the aftermath when we parted again, but the warm earth and the plants greening and our bodies hungering for each other in the California sun. Now that's the South. Moving to the West, this is the place of introspection, going within, and it's also the place of loss. And this is another California poem that just seemed appropriate because I wrote it about a wildfire that took my friend's house there. So this is for the tea fire in 2008. Clearings. My friend stands in the panoramic mountain view of her once house, now nothing but a concrete foundation and a stone fireplace. Charred palm trees all around like battle-scarred sentinels. She walks me through where the kitchen was, the hallways, the children's bedrooms, full of memories. But it is when she speaks of the trees they had to take down, jacaranda, pepper, acacia, that she begins to cry. It broke my heart, she says. The house will be rebuilt, smaller. She and her husband drive up from their rental house to water the ground every day. Red hollyhocks bloom where red flames licked. The green is coming back. I think of my marriage, the separation, like a burning to the ground of a house thought solid. Or maybe the divorce is like the removal of the foundation, only memory left of rooms and years. And the trees taken out are like the dreams of growing old together, irreplaceable, not enough time to grow them with someone else. The detours our lives take, the strange clearings, the way the green comes back. And still in the West, so it's a place of loss, but also a place of reckoning with change. This one is called Connection. All night I lay awake as if it were me starting a new job today, not my daughter, imagining her anxious about it, not able to sleep and fretting more. How long does this go on? This carrying the child who is no longer a child, as if 9 months in the womb welds us, heart and body, for all our days. This morning, the sun revives me from my sleepless night, and she sends me pictures of her on the way to work, outfit perfect, new shoes, new bag, like the first day of school. And I remember bicycling after the yellow school bus that took her away to kindergarten, watching from the edge of the schoolyard until she flowed in with the others. And now, as then, she's fine. As she steps into the excitement of a new place, a new phase that I feel along with her, heart to heart, continuing. And then moving to the north, which is the place of the ancestors and of wisdom. This poem is called Positioning. I like to position things for ease, for convenience, for aesthetics. The picture of red and yellow tulips on the table nearby, the lamp for more light to read by, a big chair turned toward the window for a better view. The placement of things matters to me, and yet, without my help, every rock in this river is exactly right. That was written at a writer's retreat north of here, where the little river sang to us every day because every rock was just right. And this one is called Sage. Pouring rain on a Saturday morning, and I light the lavender sage candle bought last week from the Ojibwe woman in the Anglican church parking lot. And from the candle, I light a gray curl of sage from the bundle I ordered online that arrived in a cardboard box this week. I imagine my ancestors smiling as the tradition's continuing. Maybe even my mother, for all her disdain for longhouse pagan ways. Maybe she's an elder now, in the way she was always meant to be, wise to the ways of her people, still killing it at Scrabble in heaven. My mother was an inveterate Scrabble player. And just one more from towards the end of the north sections is called The Path. I'm building a path from beautiful broken stones, laying them out in a graceful curve across the lawn to the rock garden. I'm writing a new story from beautiful broken moments, laying them down across the page to a place I can call home. And finally, one from the center, which is the place of the creator and the place of mystery. We're always circling around. This is called Medicine. Take one poem every day with or without water. Take the words of poets from all times and lay them on your forehead like wet rags. Wrap them around your wounds. Take ink of ocean color and write your soul across the page. Take pains and joys and weave them in a tapestry to fly above the clouds. Take words as seeds. Take heart, dear heart, take heart. Thank you.
Oh, Melinda. Oh my goodness. You've taken us on such a journey.
Thanks, Enid.
I have posted some links in the chat from Melinda's book, which is available from Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And I'll post those again. For those of you who came in after I posted, you may not be able to see them. I want to also mention that Melinda is a consummate leader of online writing workshops. She's been doing this for many years. Her next writers group starts January 28th and runs for 5 weeks. So to register, you'll go to her website and the link can be found. The link for her website will be posted later to the chat. All right, I'm going to mute everyone but me, and I'm going to read to you from my book. Just hold on just a second. I'm changing hats. I'm not the host anymore. I'm the poet now, as you can see. So I want to give a shout out to the small press that published my book, Pedregosa St. The name of the press is Sheila-Na-Gig Editions, and the editor-in-chief, Haley Mitchell Hagen, is just wonderful to work with. She's going to issue another call for manuscripts in 2027, so be on the lookout for that. I am Enid Osborn. I have lived in Santa Barbara, California for 45 years and served as City Poet Laureate in 2017 to 2019. My first book was titled When the Big Wind Comes. It was released in 2015 by Big Yes Press. Can you all hear me? Just nod. Yeah, good. Linda. It takes place during my childhood in southeast New Mexico, where my family raised quarter horses for some years. Today I'm going to read from my new collection, Pedregosa St. This house in the background is the house in the book. And it's the house where I'm sitting upstairs right now. I still live here. The poems describe my long residency here and my relationship to the house as it grew. And it describes the neighborhood, just the flavor of the West Side. I've lived in this house for 29 years. but I've lived in this neighborhood for 45 years. So I've been on the West Side in one residence or another for a very long time. So I get to say, this is my turf. There are 3 long poems that make a framework for Pedregosa Street, and I'm going to start with a couple of those. In the first, I hope to describe my neighborhood in the wee hours of morning, where I was of a habit awake and writing. Awake on the West Side. At 3 a.m., a lamp burns in the cul-de-sac, and in the quiet, a single voice may be heard. The rude downshift of a semi, the hiss of a rusted owl in the palm, the scratch of a pen on dry paper. At 4, a train wails at the station 2 miles away. The sound builds in the night, 4 engines straining with a full load behind. A searing white light sweeps the shallow canyon between road bank and houses. Gaining speed, the train barrels past Pedregosa, squeals, hisses, slams the tracks, and lumbers over Mission Bridge. The old Vic jitterbugs, empty chairs walk. China sings atop the shelves. A crack in the wall grows wider. This house, a bare 30 yards from the tracks, knows much about trains. At 5 o'clock, the asphalt lies cool on Micheltorena Bridge. Golden lamps cast fixed shadows. No rolling cars to Xerox. No can pickers. No workers on bikes. No women on their way to market. No stray dogs. Only the little bats whose shadows flit like doubts one may choose to ignore. Just before the street lamps extinguish, those bigger doubts, the crows, begin their journey across the sky. At first, they speak little and pass for black. But one green crow, a parrot, flies among and shrilly mimics the crow's speech. Several more are not strictly black, but descendants of the West Side white crow. Random streaks and patches of white on their wings, as if, on an errand of mischief, they flew beneath a rain of paint. Blue gum eucalyptus, night jasmine, pittosporum mingle their oils with a mist of fish and tar. The boys who vault the chain link fence are not West Side locals, just boys in bleached t-shirts who jostle for position as they wind their way home along the tracks. The old woman stands at her stove heating coffee. Her heavy braid falls to her waist. A boy comes in, closes the door softly. ¿A dónde fuiste? ¿Qué hiciste? I'm tired, abuelita, he says. Déjame. And he falls asleep in his clothes, resting on his belly, once again the child she knows. As the freeway finds its sure and even tides, the boy dreams. The poet carefully presses her pages, throws off the afghan, shuffles to the kitchenette, lights a blue flame under the pot, greets the mountain that stands in her window, and the morning becomes a sink of dishes, a pair of shoes, the daily news, and a clock on the wall that tells her when it's time to catch the 101. Thank you. A second of the foundation poems is actually And by foundation, I mean these poems hold the book in place. This is a series of vignettes about my colorful neighbors on West Pedregosa, and I'm just going to read you a few of those. Most of these were written in my early years here, when the neighborhood was pretty sketchy. I would tell my friends where I moved to, I love my new house. It's like, you live where? So it was like that back then. And since then, it has become somewhat gentrified. There are some family housing units or villages that have been built. More traffic, more density, and things have become more nice but less colorful, I would have to say. So these poems are partly fictionalized and names have been changed. As you heard in the first poem, the Pedregosa house is situated in a cul-de-sac abutting the railroad. Cul-de-sac stories. 1. The freight creaks to a slow amble. A screen door slams at the last house. A man jumps the chain links, hits the side of a rusted boxcar, and swings butt first through the half-open door. Sometimes the freight stops for 20 minutes, an hour, giving Amtrak the right of way. The woman who paints La Virgen comes down from Mission Bridge and picks out a green boxcar. She unpacks her stencil. Neighbors returning from market pause beside the tracks to watch La Virgen take form. By the way, La Virgen means the Virgin of Guadalupe. Children whisper. No one talks aloud. Paint dries on sun-warmed metal. As the train creaks and begins to roll, the painter walks alongside, putting up the last stars. 2. El portero rakes the asphalt clean. Not just the street in front of his house, but the whole round of the cul-de-sac. Half an hour of scratching each morning we take for granted, like mission bells. The points on his rake are worn to nubs. The railroad builds a fence at the base of the cul-de-sac to keep drug runners from hopping the trains. His side of the fence is clean. The other side, trash crawls up the chain links. One of the things I love about my neighborhood is that it's multicultural and multi-generational. I've gotten to know neighbors from Mexico, China, Guatemala, Korea, East Africa, and England, to name a few. We have ancient people observing old world customs, such as the man who rakes each day. And there are always children's voices, beautiful families growing up around me. In fact, it was a neighbor child who first told me about a ghost on my balcony. And then there are the animals. On the cover of my book, you see a photo of a chow chow. Can you see this? See this little dog? That is Lion Dog, and he has his own vignette. Lion Dog makes his rounds at a jaunty tick, swinging his broad head down on every plug and post. He does not growl at strangers or unfurl his tight plume to greet a neighbor. He ignores cats and avoids that half-chow bitch at the last house. They had a thing, that's all it was. Mornings and evenings, he makes his rounds. Afternoons, he lies on the warm asphalt in front of his house like a perfect sphinx. Nothing raises his hair except the Harleys. Line Dog cringes away from the sound of glass packs as El Tigre pulls up across the street and swipes the kickstand. Children pour out of the house crying, "Daddy, Daddy!" To settle a dispute, he smacks all three. Another thing I could say about living in one place for a long time is that no matter whether a neighbor is a hermit like me or a busybody also like me, at some point you realize that shared experience is unavoidable. At some point there will be an inconvenient repair, or a tree will come down, or there'll be an emergency, a slow-moving ICE vehicle will pass by, and you will find your neighbors on the sidewalk with a lot to talk about. All neighbors matter. All are within our sphere of care. One morning, my neighbor, John, from across the hall, knocked on my door and asked me if I could give him a lift to the emergency room. Turns out he had suffered a heart attack the night before, and it was not his first. This poem is called The Agitated Heart. A heart fits well in a hand, even a small hand, even a large heart like yours, swollen from work and damage. They separate the sternum, pull you apart like a food bird. What would you choose if somebody came for yours? Say you were a shy man and hands came reaching for your heart. Would you choose love or precision? The hands you see through your eyelids are covered in wax, and they've touched many hearts, and they talk about yours, and they talk about yours, and they pass it beating, and they pass it bleeding from hand to hand, and your heart pleads for its life. How could it know more than a wild bird who means to save it and who means to kill it? Deals are made with heart tailor, pulse taker, tube layer, blood sucker, seller of sleep. You see it all, but judgment is white, white, white. You cannot speak or change a thing. When you waken, you look down your nose at the crooked seam. You are strangely calm, even buoyant, as you receive an accounting of the surgery. But when you ask your heart won't speak. It shudders in its broken cage. Mended but not safe, it relives the moment when the hands came. So the book is dedicated to John. We became good friends, and there's a whole little section of poems that have to do with him and his art and being neighbors. This next poem is called Manes of Pegasus. What I loved about that apartment on the second floor of a creaky old Vic beside the railroad tracks, with the ancient bathtub and drippy fixtures, especially in winter when a cold draft came through the ill-fitted windows, was washing my hair in a big slope-ended tub perched high on lion's toes. The sun climbed through the south-facing window at 9 and filled the bathroom with light. Even if the water was tepid, the steam in that bright, cold sunlight was furious, furious. When I raised my dripping hands, they emanated a wild aura. 2 players in the pantheon, backlit and mighty, with flowing manes and tails. They were dark suns dancing in the heavens. They were twin heralds of a coming age. I shivered before them. Let's see. Got a few more minutes to read. Why I did not cut my hair. Because each follicle is a tiny antenna, and the longer the antennae, the more intelligence I can collect. Because I kept my hair all the way through cancer. Because I kept my hair all the way through menopause, though I shed like a dog who was left in the car. Because hair wants to do its own thing. Because the arbiters of fashion say, cut it short after 40, and the gravitational pull of planets at the moment of my birth caused a lifelong tendency to act contrary to expectation. Because the abuelitas in my neighborhood sport braids down to their waists that swing when they walk. Because Frida cut hers despite an unfaithful man, and I, who have no unfaithful man, am grateful. Because those Native American boys who were recruited to scout during wars lost their uncanny abilities after they were given the buzz cut. Because my husband used to tousle my short curls, and now he watches my hair with a sort of shyness. Because long hair flies in wind and floats like seaweed. Because it catches the eastern light to make a kind of halo. Because hair is a holy garment. There are several poems in the book that mention ghosts or house spirits, and these may be real or imagined. The difference between a rat and a ghost. You are comfortable with the pops and sighs of the old house, 100 years and counting. Animals make a different sound inside the walls than droll house spirits do. You think you hear intention, stealth perhaps. It brings your chi right to the surface. Not the sound a bodiless soul makes to say hello, or to offer some dry and timely comment on what you were just thinking. You don't have to take my word for it, says the ghost, laissez-faire as all get out. The intruder, on the other hand, is anything but ambivalent and doesn't give a rat's ass what you think. He is alive and wants to stay that way. 2. He climbs up the ancient skeleton of abandoned plumbing inside the wall toward a dim crescent of light and the smell of neglect. Punches the powdery caulking with one hand and squeezes through into the lower cupboard, the one you never clean so as not to stir memories. He is now officially trespassing, a noble rat vocation, and likes what he smells. He possibly likes your kitchen more than you do. The spaces you fail to inhabit are neon signs written in rat. So, so I'm going to read one more poem, and it's another ghost poem. During my long tenancy here, I have considered a haunting from different perspectives. If there is a ghost or ghosts here, they're very polite. No one has ever tried to scare me or jumped out and said boo or, anything like that. And I may have thought there was a ghost, but my neighbor may not hear or sense anything. So as time went by, I began to think that perhaps I was haunted, not the house. And then after 20 some years, I began to wonder if perhaps it was actually my own spirit that haunted this house. So I've had a lot of fun thinking about that and writing about it. This poem is called A Spirited House. And I'll begin with a quote from Emily Dickinson. One need not be a chamber to be haunted. One need not be a house. The brain has corridors surpassing material place. Sometimes she surprises her younger self on the stairs, or as she waters plants on the balcony, roots in the closet for lost boots, sets a vase of tulips on the nightstand. Only now, as she begins to pack, does she understand the house was never haunted. It was her older self who watched, who clucked her tongue and made the stairs creak with her footfall. She who ticked her impatience inside the walls, flickered the lights, cried out in a dream. She who, trapped in the crawl space, went mad from desire, hoarded and displaced photos, cooked dry the Pyrex percolator, and said goodbye to the last generation of Orioles in the Washingtonia. The handprints on the windowsill, those were hers too. She lingered beyond reason. At last, the many stairs became a steep ladder. She arrived breathless at door number 3, which swung open to a room she hardly recognized. I think I used to live here, she said, repeating the very words the ghost had said to her 30 years before. Thank you.